Right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is the Verse community call. We are live streaming on Discord, and this session will be recorded for sharing on YouTube and our Rumble channel. All right. So today we're going to be talking about a topic very close to my heart called decentralization. So if you are new to crypto and Web3, you may have heard this phrase before, but you don't really know what it entails. So today I'll be giving you my impression about what decentralization means and what it means to me as an individual and us as a community. All right. So topic for today is called on decentralization, and the one of the things that we'll be addressing is what it means to be in Web3, or what it means to adopt this idea of decentralization. All right. So let's get into it. Okay, so for today, we'll be talking about decentralization, like what it is, some history of decentralization, what it means for the future of society, and what can we do more to support decentralization if you adopt this idea. All right, so today we'll be exchanging ideas. And before we get into it, this information is for educational purposes only. It's not financial advice. Do your own research before investing, if any. And also, I want to preface this by saying that these are my thoughts and ideas around decentralization. You may have your own, and you may have heard others' opinion of what it means and is to them. So do take everything that will be shared with buckets full of salt. All right, all right. So let's get started. So when we talk about decentralization, in my mind, it's about power, control, and decision making. So where these three things exist, kind of defines how decentralized a thing or a system or a process or a technology is. All right. So when we talk about decentralization, it's about spreading out power, control, and decision making to many, many participants, many individuals, many voters, if you will, and not consolidating power into one individual or a particular set of people who can make decisions. Right. So it's very abstract, but when we talk about consolidation, it could be consolidating into uh, the rulers of a particular country, an individual with the loudest voice, perhaps in a particular environment or community. So all of those things are forms of centralization. It could also be consolidation of technology, right? So technology in the form of a central server that everybody has to talk to get that information out. For example, the big tech that's out there, Facebook, TikTok, where have you uploaded your images to? So those are forms of centralization too. So what happens if Facebook goes down, or your cloud provider goes down, or even your internet service provider goes down? What happens then? So that's a point of failure. I think the bigger risk is that what happens if these centralized points become malicious and start acting against your best interests, right? So that's a even worse case or worse future to imagine, right? So imagine if an ISP, your internet service provider, suddenly stopped all of your content coming in from a particular domain, or start to censor some of the conversations that's happening online. What would that do to the freedom of people in a particular country or geography or community? Right. So it's a very dangerous future that we can imagine when there's centralized power, control, and decision making. Right. And with decentralization comes transparency. So when there is more power, that control and decision making that's distributed, everyone can take a look and say, okay, who is making which decisions? What kind of decisions should be approved? or not approved? Right? What will this impact our community, our future, our collective future? And start to ask these questions. So the more distributed this information is, the more control is distributed, the more we can affect some of the decisions that would take place. Conversely, if there's no transparency and no accountability, one person might say, okay, this is the policy going forward. Everyone has to, be on board or get off the boat. And it's a very tough future to be in. All right. So decentralization helps to increase transparency and accountability so that we can ask questions about the policies, the systems, the impact on our collective future. And I think most importantly, decentralized helps to empower individuals and communities to make those decisions and to propose those policies that will be in place. So decisions, policies, or even technology that will come into play in the future. Right. So we have a voice. We are not just a statistic any longer. Right. So we are able to effect change on the future. All right. So that's if you ask me what is the definition of decentralization, I would say these 4 points. Right. So I think it's a very powerful idea. It spreads, it gives power to individuals to effect change that they want to see in the world. Right. And the idea of decentralization isn't new. So we've seen decentralization of information way back in 15th century when the printing press first started. All right. So the gentleman or lady came up with this idea of, okay, let's print out text so that we can spread information and ideas. The information and ideas doesn't have to be controlled by the people in power. Right. Back then, it could be the state or the ruling party or monarchy or the church. But now, in the 15th century, when the printing press first came out, now everyone with this tool could spread their ideas that they want to communicate to others. And I would say that's the very first start of decentralization, like decentralization of knowledge. All right. Fast forward to 1990s. Some of us may have been born, some of us not yet. But the internet opened up so much more information to everyday people, like people on the street. Of course, back then you would have to be, I guess, wealthy enough to have a stable internet connection to be able to access that information, have a good device that supports that. But now everyone has a phone. Everyone has a phone at least, or a laptop that you can access the information. I mean, we can't live without internet nowadays, and information is being spread so much more effectively because of the internet. All right, and I would say the stage of decentralization that we're in is the Bitcoin movement. So Bitcoin, early 2009, 2010s, right? So that idea of having money without boundaries, right? Money without intermediaries came about. And today we are able to exchange money across borders, between people, so easily, right? So you can do a lot more with money today than you could before, right? So again, it's giving power, financial power, to individuals to make their decisions. Okay, do I want to spend the money here, there? Do I want to send it here, there? And I don't need to have an intermediary to say no, you can't. Right. So that's where we are today, from early ideas and early forms of decentralization to what decentralization is today. I think it's a very exciting era to be in, right? Being able to send money anywhere, being able to interact with different blockchains, not just Bitcoin, of course. Bitcoin is our favorite token, but favorite coin, but there are so much other chains and technologies out there that support this idea of decentralization. So it's a very exciting era to be in. Right. So what has decentralization done for us today? Right. So I believe decentralization has shifted power from institutions to individuals. Right. So back then, if you wanted to send money overseas, you would have to go to your bank. Your bank would say, "Okay, I need 3 to 5 days to do this cross country cross border transfer," or you could go to your preferred money transfer agent. Right, so there are a couple out there. They do it within 1 or 2 days, but you still need to go through an intermediary. Today, if you wanted to send money overseas via crypto, you can. Right, so I don't have to rely on a bank or a money exchange, money remittance agent to send money anymore. So power has shifted from institutions, large institutions like banks, like agents, to individuals. Also, we have more choice in what we want to do with our money today. Like for those of us in crypto, right? So, do you want to put your hard-earned money in a bank to earn interest, or to uh, participate in some of the traditional interest yielding programs that the banks have, right? Or do you want to put it into crypto and DeFi, right? So that's a choice that we have, and so it's a freedom of choice that we have now, and we are also able to express our ideas even more freely with decentralization, right? So with more communities sprouting out because of technology, because of internet, because of communities that sprouted up from from Web3 projects, we are now able to find communities that we believe in. We believe in their goals. We believe in their mission. So we are able to associate stronger with them, and we can also express ourselves more in this environment. Right? So if you want to be NFT creator, a meme creator, you can, and this is an avenue for you because of decentralization. All right, and so we talked about fair access to financial opportunities, but also educational. Now, decentralization not only in the crypto space, but in terms of information, we are able to self-publish what we want to what we want others to hear. Right, you can publish it on a blog, you can publish it on your preferred video streaming channel. Right, so ideas are much more prevalent, and you're able to pick up different ideas from different people easier, much more easily. And of course, opportunities. So opportunities in terms of social opportunities where you find other like-minded people to talk to and create things with, but also opportunities for work, right? And opportunities to participate positively in the community. And last but not least, because of all this decentralization of information, of technology, we are now able to innovate more quickly without gatekeepers telling us no. Right? So if you wanted to create a dApp today, you could. Right? So just form. If you are an engineer, you already have the technical skills to do so. If you are not an engineer, you can partner with one and share ideas. And if the engineer likes it, you can create ideas. You can bring your ideas to reality. Right. So yeah, so that's what I think about how decentralization has impacted us, and it's a very exciting time to be in, to see how technology, how information, how blockchains and crypto evolves together with this idea. Right. So when we talk about decentralization, the next most common term that comes out is Web3. Right. So I feel that Web3 is an aspect of decentralization. So it's not something that defines the term, but it's something that comes out because of this idea. All right. So Web3 uses blockchain as the backbone. It is trustless, borderless, programmable. Everyone who has been in crypto now knows this. But for the new folks, the idea of not having to rely on a centralized system, right? Having a new way of communicating with with technology, relying on the blockchain and enabling these principles of being trustless. I don't have to trust anybody. I don't have to be confined to a particular region to use that technology. And if I can program my own, program my own contracts, program my own logic to create the ideas that I want in the world. Right. So it's I think it's very, I always say this, but it's a very interesting time and place to be in, because you don't need an intermediary to tell you what to do any longer. Right? You can simply pick up any blockchain that you wish, right? Participate as a creator, participate in the community, or just a member, and you have almost direct access to the either the value offering or the value proposition that the project is offering, right? So, for example, if you interact with DeFi, for example, you perhaps you use Uniswap, Arbitrum, or Optimism to trade and do your or you have a portfolio on any of these chains, right? So that's an example of democratizing finance and making capital and yield easily accessible to everybody. All right. Another example of something in Web3 is the concept of DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. Right. So these are collective members who come together to decide on things that are that will affect either the project or how they spend their funds or some decisions they make on leadership. Right. So everyone has a voice now. Right. So it's not just dictated by one person. And lastly, if you are a creator, you would have been through you have heard of at least the Solana summer coming up and all the NFT hype before, right? But at its core, it's about giving ownership rights to something, and that is transparent to everybody, and that is digitally yours, at least in this age, right? So you don't have to. So ownership doesn't have to be held in secret. You can announce it if you wish, or you could have proof of ownership. Right? So that's the power of entities. You can create something and assign it to somebody, and that determines if that person has ownership or not. All right. So again, all of these examples are things that are sprouted in Web3. It may evolve a couple of years from now. We don't know, but it's very exciting space to be in to see how it evolves. Again, the benefits that have come with Web3, I feel, are inclusion, transparency, and global participation. Anyone can participate. All right, so we've heard all the good things about decentralization, but what are some of the bad things? Like, why do we need more decentralization? The bad things today. All right, so we need more decentralization because we need to spread power amongst everybody else, right? The individuals and communities, right? When someone has too much power, right, things can go wrong. Imagine, or just recall your last unfair policy, whoever you are. It could be at your office, it could be in your government, it could be in your country, or from another country imposing those unfair policies on you. All right. So, are these policies valid? Could there be any different? Have they heard from individuals? Right. With decentralization, we would have more voice. Right. So this prevents abuse. This prevents censorship and inequality. All right. So again, when there's more power and when there's more transparency, we are able to prevent some of the bad things that can happen, right? It doesn't have to be policies, but it could be preventing big things, big unnecessary things from happening, like centralized exchanges doing funny stuff with customers' money, right? So we've seen it in FTX, we've seen it in Celsius. What if it was more transparent? What if everyone had a say? Everyone could take a look into the books to see what these folks are doing with it. Could we have prevented these scenarios? Right. My response to the question would be yes. If they were transparent, we would have caught it. Right. Right. So I feel it's very important that power, control, technology is decentralized. Like the more decentralized it is, the more transparency, the more innovation, and the more rights are protected. Okay, so if you believe in the concept of decentralization, what can you do today? All right, so I've got 3 points here. The first point is to learn as much as you can about the idea of decentralization. All right, so imagine yourself as a character in a game. So little knight here. You are putting on the armor by learning more. Right, so you can go to ChatGPT, ask ChatGPT what is decentralization, clarify some ideas that I'm talking, listen to other people's podcasts. Right, it doesn't have to be me. Find your favorite thought leaders. What kind of ideas are they saying about this topic? And I would say question everything first and search for your own answers about and your own definition about decentralization and what it means to you. All right, so learn as much as you can, find your own answers. Second point, so if you believe in the idea of decentralization, you should raise awareness of this idea in your circles, your friends, your family, your communities, perhaps whoever will listen. So this Verse community call, I'm taking advantage of the platform to share my ideas to raise awareness of decentralization, and I hope you will too. Right, so you can start your own podcast, you can write a blog, right, post on X or your preferred social media platform. All right, so keep raising awareness of this idea. And lastly, of course, be part of a project or a community that has a similar ideas with you. All right, so whether it be the Verse community, the Verse and Bitcoin.com community, doesn't matter. Find one that you can relate to. Contribute in your own capacity as a marketer, developer, designer, or just a supporter. Doesn't matter, as long as you contribute. I think that's the main point. And of course, find like-minded people to share, learn, and grow together. All right. So some closing remarks. The key takeaways for this session. So I shared about a big idea about decentralization, definition, some history, and impact. But I want to leave you with this closing point. Like, decentralization is not just a fancy word or a technology shift, but it's a movement towards freedom, resilience, shared prosperity, and even borderless opportunities. Right? The world is so vast with this idea. You can create anything that you want. Right? So it's a big idea and a big movement. And I encourage everyone listening to learn about it, raise awareness, and join a project or community. Okay, as a final note, perhaps some self-reflection. What can we do as individuals and projects and as projects to increase decentralization in the future? Right? So you can take a look as an individual. So as an individual, I need to learn, raise awareness, join a project. How about as a project? Like, how about the Verse project? What can the Verse project do to increase decentralization, to strengthen this idea and make the future more decentralized? All right, so some questions to think about. You can join me in the Verse Telegram group, right? The public Verse Telegram group. Right, thank you so much for being there already. So join me in there. Also join me on the closed exclusive Verse Lounge. It's a closed Telegram group. guild.xyz/verse, can discuss the ideas there. All right. Again, lastly, this is not financial advice. Do research before investing, and I hope um, you will adopt this idea of decentralization and continue to explore it in your circles and in your community. All right. So why am I talking about this? Why are we talking about all of this? We believe that Bitcoin and crypto will be used by everyone around the world one day, and we're here to make crypto fun, easy, rewarding for everyone. All right. Thank you so much for joining me. We will be back next Friday, midnight UTC, on the next first community call, and I'll see you there. All right. Thank you, and have a great day. Goodbye.